Hello and welcome to In On I.T, your go-to podcast for all things information technology at MCC. My name is Art Brown. I'm the Dean of IT at MCC, and I'm thrilled to guide you on this exciting journey through the dynamic world of IT. Together we'll explore the latest trends, innovations, and success stories within our department, giving you an insider's look at what makes our IT community thrive. Throughout our various episodes, we'll shine spotlights on incredible talent of our faculty, dedication of our staff, and some of the ambitious spirits of our students. Welcome you to sit back, relax, listen to our seasoned IT professionals and aspiring students as we begin this journey on our podcast. Today I'm honored to have our next guest, one of our newest faculty members, Steve Saunders here. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here.
So our goal in having you here and our other faculty is just to kind of showcase our faculty staff to the audience, students, and the community alike. So usually when we have guests, I just have everyone tell a little bit about yourself and your background, and let's start there if you can, please.
Sure, yeah, I have kind of a unique background where I graduated college and then got into IT and computer science and worked for a software company in Connecticut and did like IT tech support and things like that. And then I left that job to go into broadcast journalism for several years. And so, but I brought my tech background in there and used a lot of technology as a reporter and things. And then got into teaching after that. And so, yeah, full-time here and enjoying teaching like full stack classes and things like that, database. My industry background from before broadcasting, I work with databases and things and coding as well.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And so I'm going to put you on the spot. I remember vaguely seeing you on TV. If you want to share with the audience what network you were with before.
Yeah, I was on Fox 42 here in the area. They don't do news anymore. That ended about a year ago. But I was on TV for about 2 years.
Gotcha.
Some people still recognize me, but I'm kind of a has-been.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that was an interesting experience. I worked for a TV station in the New York area before this for a few years, and I was on radio too. So you know, TV people sometimes do the radio anchoring in between. But yeah, it was an interesting experience. So,
So just if you don't mind sharing, I mean, you kind of mentioned the transition from network broadcasting to the tech space, but was there? I'm just curious if you don't mind sharing an epiphany you had along the way that made you. I mean, kind of two totally different industries. If you can maybe share with the audience what brought that upon you to consider this shift, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah. Well, I've always loved computers and kind of, I consider myself like half digital, half analog because, you know, I remember when we didn't have a computer in the house, you know. So I had interest in that, but since I was young, I've always wanted to be a reporter and an anchor as well. And so I kind of had these two buckets of interests, and I got this opportunity to shift from computers to broadcasting, and usually it takes a lot to get on TV or become a talent, and so I kind of grabbed the opportunity, even though I took a pay cut, you know. So, but it was kind of a lifelong dream for me, and then you know, kind of got burnt out from TV news and started teaching and loved that.
It since.
So that's kind of my journey.
Good. Yeah, very interesting. And I mentioned that as just, you know, I think it's good for the students specifically to hear, and our audience as a whole. It's okay to pivot. You know, you find, you know, I think we've all been there at some point. You know, we need a refresher on our pathway or trajectory. So,
And what's interesting is technology obviously overlaps with every single industry basically. And so I was doing a lot of the stuff connecting FTP, uploading files and stuff, a lot of the stuff the reporters didn't really know how to do, you know. So it was interesting how many skills I used in broadcasting, and then in broadcasting moving to education, how the communication skills and public speaking and all this stuff, it all relates, how to figure out how to communicate with the students, you know. So it's kind of been fluid, even though different industries, you know.
That's interesting. I'd like to use the term technology as an enabling profession, and I think that kind of describes what you just mentioned, that most industries, technology is involved in some form or fashion. So interesting that you've been able to share that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. So a few more questions. So can you provide us, you know, the audience, what you do here at MCC specifically, what subject areas that you teach in, and what that looks like for you on a day-to-day or quarterly to quarter basis? Sure,
yeah. So I kind of teach in I have a couple hats, I guess, just from industry experience, programming, and also database, but I kind of teach toward the full stack where, you know, technical things, but you know, client side, server side, and then database. And so those are really my skills just coming from industry. I love technology, so we've talked about, like
Right.
teaching other things and
Yes.
kind of broadening my, my teaching abilities and things. And so, but yeah, I've taught PHP, which is like a
Right.
server side,
Right.
programming technology, and then database, SQL, and things
Right.
like that.
Gotcha.
And so it all fits in with my story from industry and just stuff that I've taught at other schools as well. And I think I'm at the point where I kind of know the content well, that I can start perfecting, teaching in the classroom. And you never
Gotcha.
can perfect it, but
It's an ongoing process. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of sharpen yourself as you go, and so kind of that's where I'm at. And teaching has just been. I feel like I'm on vacation every
Right.
time I teach.
Interesting.
It's
That's
just
good.
it doesn't feel like work to me.
Gotcha. Can you elaborate? I know you mentioned the database SQL classes, but some of the front end classes, if you don't mind taking a deeper dive on that, just for our audience's sake.
Sure, yeah, like I've taught JavaScript, things like that. At other schools I've done HTML, like the standard web stuff. I teach one class at UNO,
Right.
and that's web development.
Okay.
And so then that would lead into a student would learn, client-side stuff, client-side coding,
Right.
and then the next step would be how do you connect that client-side code to, say, a database or some kind of back-end process where you have more of a dynamic website.
Right.
So I've been involved in the database, how you connect it up with websites, and how websites interact with some kind of back-end process.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yep. And you're also teaching, on the front end framework side, React and React Native. If I'm
That's
not
right.
mistaken.
Yeah.
So I
Those are-
forgot.
Yeah, those are pretty popular classes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's been great. It's neat to see how you can take JavaScript and apply some framework or library.
Right.
Someone said, I don't know who said this, but if it eventually can be programmed or coded in JavaScript, it will.
Right.
And so that's really cool for me to have the opportunity to teach JavaScript,
Right.
which is a great kind of entry level, coding class as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
No, just wanted to mention that because you're kind of a jack of all trades, so I'm sure our students will be listening and looking out for your classes for sure.
Yeah.
So, Steve, along that line, so what new trends in web development and database administration are you most excited about? You kind of touched on a couple, but how do you plan to further incorporate some of this new and emerging technology into your current curriculum?
Sure. So I really like AI,
Gotcha.
Artificial intelligence, the machine learning, LLMs and things like that. And so it's been interesting to see how that's kind of taking over things. And in the web world, I'm really now focused on how can I best teach that in the classroom.
Gotcha.
And I really enjoy incorporating it into the instruction and having the students involved in kind of utilizing some AI technology like ChatGPT or something to kind of build part of a project that we're working on, and then they perfect it or think critically about it. Can I do it better?
Gotcha.
And so I really think that it's interesting to see how the artificial intelligence is being used to build part of the website, and then we step in as humans and kind of tailor it and make it better.
Right. Very
So.
cool. So obviously you're reading my mind. My next question is on AI. So just for our audience's sake, Steve is working on a new course here at the college in our IT department. Can you share a little bit about what that looks like and what the scope of that course will be?
Sure. Well, we have a unique position in our department, I think, because we've heard about AI and things, and it's totally new to a different department here at MCC. But for us now, we're focusing more on not coding the AI, but focusing on the aspects of AI that can make it bias or something like that, like how to use it, And so a lot of questions come up is how do you write prompts for it strategically? How do you use it maybe in the job that you get after school, And so that's kind of where things are going. And the class that I'm helping develop talks about that digital citizenship. How do you use this technology? The class is geared toward utilizing kind of innovative technology. So not just AI, but how do you utilize the internet to get sources? How do you not take for truth maybe the first thing that you find on a source or a website. So
Gotcha.
that's what we're looking toward, and I think that kind of spreads into everything,
does,
the
yeah.
entire school. You know, all focus area. You know, it's one of those things that you know we're all going to be using. Well, we've been using technology.
Right.
You know, Google. You know, and things like that. And I think this class will be eye-opening for a lot of people, and it's really even a safety thing on the internet. Like how do you protect yourself and know that you're getting information that's accurate?
Right,
You know?
right. And I think, I mean, so many things. I would summarize what you've said as it's just a common tool that we all need to know how to use, or just use it in an ethical fashion, use it practically and in a safe fashion, and yeah, just kind of echoing those things for sure.
I mean, I'm learning how to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm new to it. You know, I'm trying to incorporate it into my classrooms and things, and it's just a learning curve for all of us. You know.
Right.
So,
No, I would agree. I'm a avid user. Every day I'm
using
one of the AI tools for something, just to make my day-to-day tasks more efficient too.
Sure. Yeah.
So can you, so along that line, can you further elaborate, like what are some fundamental concepts? You've kind of said a couple, but any additional concepts that you think every student or even citizen might need to have, and what are some of those things they might expect to get out of the class that you're working on?
Sure. I mean, we're going to spend some time defining what AI is, because some need to understand, what are the different AI related tools out there, LLMs, large language models and things like that. And then we're going to talk about how can you utilize them in your daily life. And so I know I touched on that before, but you can, I mean, it really branches off into everything. And so we're going to focus on three main things. AI is a big one that's kind of spread throughout the class, but we're also going to talk about media literacy. How do you sort through different things that you're presented with even on different mediums like TV, on the internet, and which fits right into my background, because I come from broadcasting and media, and so I have an idea of how people kind of parse through some of that information that they're presented. And then digital citizenship, which goes along with media, but it's really focusing on something that comes across Facebook. How do you know that that's accurate? How do you back things up and look at context and things? And how can you utilize digital technologies in the workforce and afterwards? So, yeah.
And one of the things, obviously, we're facing in academia, ethical uses of AI technology. It's something we're constantly dealing with, and it's just becoming quite prevalent. And so I believe, some of those core concepts you mentioned will help our students become better digital citizens overall. So
absolutely, yes. Yep.
Gotcha. Cool. What about, can you, let me go back. How do you, so many technologies you've spoken about today, what do you do personally to keep yourself current on all the technologies?
Yeah, I go online and read about what's going on. I mean, I am on blogs, I'm talking to people as well. I got opportunities to kind of travel and do professional development with MCC, and it's just been great to talk to people in industry and kind of hear what's going on. I'm particularly interested in how can like a place like UP or how are they utilizing AI? Because I think that's specific to our students. It would be great for students to come out of school knowing how maybe an entry-level junior position, what they're going to do with AI or something like that. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
What? So you touched on this, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. You mentioned, and I know you've shared with me personally, can you share with our audience some innovative teaching methods or technologies that you've integrated in your classes using AI specifically that I thought they were revolutionary, or they were really thought-provoking in my opinion? So yeah, if you could share a couple of examples.
Sure, yeah. I'm trying to, the database class that I had, I actually had the students use AI to create a relational database. And so the AI would create a script that we would normally do by hand, and then they would build off of that and try to figure out what data fits into what tables and things. So what I've been trying to do is have it's kind of like structured, it's a loose structure where I have a kind of like an an outline of what I want to do, but I let the students get involved and utilize AI, and they actually kind of create some of the assignment that we're doing, or hands-on activity.
Right.
And so that's what I've been doing. But what I did in the database classes, they create this database using AI. They look at it and think critically about it. Did the AI do it the way maybe Steve has suggested we would do this, or and because I'm one of a million voices out there that can say how to design a database, because I call it more of an art than a science, and so it's interesting to see what the students come up with based on the instruction, what the AI does, and then what they would do, and so that's really how I deal with AI. I like to have the students really compare and contrast what they do versus the AI.
Right,
and so,
it helps critical thinking, at minimum. Gotcha.
And I do a lot of reflection afterwards. So if something goes haywire, which it did, I in my JavaScript class, I had the students create the in-class activity by coming up with a prompt. And so then I took that prompt that they had a consensus on, I threw it in ChatGPT, and it came up with this whole elaborate hands-on activity. But it was way too much, for the time frame that I'm teaching, so you have to scale it back, and it's all a learning process and how to do that. But reflecting on it and kind of knowing what works, what doesn't, as you trial and error, that really helps.
Right. And this was real-time troubleshooting. And how did you, if I can put you on the spot, how did you and your students work through that?
Yeah, we kind of trimmed down the scope of that project, but I invited them into the decision making, which is actually gets these students to come back to the classroom, because they're excited to be a part of kind of the assessment tool that we create or something like that. And so, and it keeps me entertained too. So I'm excited to go to class and utilize, we don't always utilize AI, all the time, but when we do, it really is an interesting thing that gets students thinking critically about what they're doing.
Gotcha.
And I think there's more positives than negatives to AI. There have been things where I'm up at night thinking, like, what is this technology going to do? But as far as teaching is concerned, I think it's a great tool to use in the classroom.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think it's good to hear. Yeah, I know you've shared those two examples for sure, and I just thought those are activities. I think if I were a student again, it would really make me want to come to class, just like you said too, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. What about so how do you've mentioned it? I think this is kind of a redundant question, but fostering collaboration. So I mean, I think those examples you gave are great examples of how students can collaborate in the class. But any other examples you might want to share with the audience?
Well, I mean, even online, which is the different modalities that we teach here, hybrid, in person, online. I try to utilize AI as well, and so collaboration, particularly in my online classes, are through like a discussion board or something like that, or they would make some kind of audio clip or video and post that and get the discussion going. Something new that I'm doing in the React class is that we have a collaborative discussion board where the students can utilize AI to kind of come up with some ideas of certain things within reason, right? Because we've got that ethical thing going on. But all the students kind of see what each one might be doing with this technology, and they can comment on that or like it or encourage another student. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And also what I'm going to do as well is when a student utilizes AI, I might have them, for points, require to turn in that conversation with AI, so we can kind of see what they're talking about with the AI, and that could help with kind of like an ethical oversight for us to kind of see what are they doing, and kind of keep a check and balance with that. So those are all tools, and I consider even collaboration can happen with the AI too, because you can go back and forth and rewrite a prompt, or hey, this didn't make sense, can you explain this, or I want to tweak it this way. And it actually has enhanced collaboration with online students because they get to talk with the AI. And talk with the AI. It's like it's a, what I mean? Like
but they're engaged though.
They're engaged. They're engaged, and they also engage with other students as well. So it's so cool to see.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I have a question on that. I mean, I'm just curious. Do you endorse any specific generative AI tool in the classes, or you kind of leave it up to the students to decide?
Yeah, I leave it up to the students. If they happen to have an account with one or another, you know, they can utilize that. I tend to utilize, you know, ChatGPT because that's kind of what I'm used to. But you know, all the other ones like Bing and all those things, you know, like they kind of have the same engine behind it, the language model. And so, I mean, some are better than others, you know, or quicker in processing. But yeah, I have no standard one that I recommend.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to hear. Okay, so let's see. Another unrelated question. So what advice would you give students who are interested in pursuing just a career not only in maybe full stack development and or, you know, what are entry-level opportunities in an AI world that we're seeing? Any general recommendations or thoughts you could share with the audience, and in particular our students that might be listening?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of twofold because it's good to kind of soak up the experience that maybe your instructor has communicated with, because like I have industry experience, so I kind of know and have contacts too. And so I think open communication with your instructor is a great way to kind of prepare yourself for industry, obviously learning and content and things like that. But sometimes the individual syntax or language, say you're in a coding class, it's not as important as grabbing the concepts behind programming, because as you progress, you're going to kind of get these ideas of what is a programming loop, you know, what's a for loop, while loop, those kinds of things that are, you know, granular to the programming process. But you know, utilizing the kind of the meta thought of how can I do this with any programming language, and so I think that's important for students to grasp that. You know, don't get nervous about not remembering every single piece of syntax of Python or JavaScript. It's really the programming concept. So focusing on that, and then I would get out and network with industry professionals, ask them questions. You know, that's what I did before I graduated college. You know, I just wanted to know what the computer industry looked like, and I met with a couple people and you know, talked with them. So that would be my advice, and I think if the more exposure you get to be around people in the industry already or asking questions, I think that reduces anxiety and helps you with interviews too. Help me.
No, so I'm going to summarize what I heard you say. So foundational skills, critical thinking, networking. I think all things whenever I talk to students, these are the same fundamental things that I tell students, that you don't need to know everything. It's unrealistic to think you're going to know everything, but having a good toolbox or resource that you can go to, talking to your instructors. I think a lot of students underestimate that. I get a lot of inquiries from employers, and I'm sure you probably do as well, and having that relationship with your instructor can help lead to some doors of employment opportunity too. So,
absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And the instructors here are great in our department.
They are. Yes, and approachable.
Approachable. We have industry experience, which is awesome, and contacts. And you know, if you talk with an instructor, you know, we have that kind of that real life experience of being in the working world too. You know, so. I don't think anyone would be willing to share their story, where they came from, you know, and yeah, it's great to utilize us in that regard, you know, because I think doing that will get you closer to that first job. You know?
No, I agree. I get emails all the time. I was just reflecting on emails I got before I came today, and a couple of students looking for job opportunities. So not sure how they came across my name. I'm sure they found it on the website, but you know, frankly, I'm impressed that if you're taking the effort to kind of connect with me to talk about employment opportunities, that to me, those are the people that I'm going to remember if and when those opportunities come across my desk. So, so I'm hoping our audience is listening and our students are hearing this and taking advantage of that opportunity, or those, windows of opportunity when they present themselves. So I got a few more final questions, and then kind of open it up to you. Let's see. Can you reflect, Steve, on any memorable success stories you had, either in your earlier days as a software developer, and then anything you might want to share with the audience that you might think will be beneficial to them to consider?
Sure, yeah. So thinking back to my first job in industry, I think what was a win was just kind of not giving up. You know, like I know that it when you get your first job, it can be pretty overwhelming sometimes, just because it's kind of a shock. You're going from, well, some of our students are already working, but some aren't, and so I think just kind of have that perseverance to push through maybe some things that might be challenging at first, and then it just gets easier, you know. So
Right.
I think my success was actually a failure that happened at my first job, where I ended up erasing an entire database.
Wow,
I'm
okay.
putting myself on the line here.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think failure really pushes you forward with success down
Right.
the road. And so I really learned a lot from that job and just the experience that I had. And I'm thankful for my boss, who you know, was gracious and you know, taught me so many things
Right.
that I never thought I would even use in the classroom as an educator. You
Right.
know, and so I think those are experiences that I've had that, you know, have really helped me in industry. I was at that in the industry for 8 years, so it was quite a while for, you know, back in Connecticut, and you know, I can think of a handful of things. Some successes as well was volunteering. You know, like I would volunteer to go on a business trip or something, and then you get to see other work environments, or you know, that company back that I worked in Connecticut installed software for the newspaper industry, and so I got to travel the country and see things. So any opportunities that you have, you know, like I would grab a hold of those.
Gotcha.
You know,
Very cool.
yeah.
Okay. So what about so kind of diving into your personal life a little bit, if you don't mind sharing.
Sure.
Professional, personal life. You know, what, if you don't mind sharing with the audience, I know you're working on some formal education and you want to maybe share a little bit about that.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. I'm actually a UNO student.
Yes.
Yes. I graduated actually with my master's in computer science education in 2022.
Okay.
And I ended up, my mom was like, "You're not going to go back to school, are you?" And I'm like, "No." And then next thing you know,
You're in school.
yeah, I'm a doctoral student in
Right.
computing and information science there.
Gotcha.
So it's been interesting to kind of juggle school and work and all those things. But I actually really like being a student as well, because I have that student perspective, you know, and so I tell my students, I'm a student just like you.
Right.
You know, at some point you could end up at UNO, and I might still be there working on my, you know.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on now. It's going to be quite a feat, but you know, pushing forward.
Yeah, no, I applaud you. We talk about it offline, and I'm like, where do you find the time, Steve? But you know, kudos. I know you'll persist and do very well. So.
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Gotcha. So one other thing I wanted to, you know, maybe have you share with the audience. You're doing so many things with the department, and you know, just amaze me at where you find the time with what you have going on. I know you and I recently traveled in an effort to secure a NSF grant that the college is working on. Can you maybe share a little bit about what we hope that will look like for us if we are awarded?
Sure. So yeah, there's a pretty large sum of money that we would receive to create some kind of model or system to help train non-STEM oriented high school teachers to get them prepared to hit the ground running and start teaching a computer science or IT class.
Right.
And so those funds would allow us to kind of mentor, as a college instructor, mentor maybe a high school teacher in how they might instruct computer classes. And the reason is because there's a shortage in teachers who teach, you know, computers, and so we saw that gap, and we wanted to try to fill that as our service to the community as a community college, you know. And so I think this grant will be interesting. We're trying to make sure that we explain what we're trying to do, and we're looking forward to seeing what happens with NSF.
Right. Yeah, and I'm just, you know, want to share with the audience, we, you know, work very closely with our four-year partners, specifically UNO here in Omaha. So I see collaboration efforts with that, and you know, hopefully it takes a village to help build that pipeline that we're hoping to close with our high school partners. So
Right.
yeah, so yeah, more to come if we get to that next step. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with the audience. Do you have any closing comments or any final thoughts you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, just I mean, being a student myself and also an instructor, you know, just embrace where you're at right now at MCC. Utilize all the resources here. There's such great resources to be successful in the classes, and our instructors, me and everyone, we're so approachable, you know. So if there's any way that we can help a student succeed, we do, you know. And I love serving the community in this regard. Several of my students have come back and said, you know, you were a part of a small part in getting my first full-time job out of school or something like that, or getting a job in IT.
Right.
And that's the most rewarding thing to hear.
Yeah. No, I love those stories as well too. So, well, Steve, I want to thank you for your time. I'm glad that you could share a little bit about your story, and hopefully our students that are listening, they'll be on the lookout for your classes and, hoping to engage with you at some point in the future. So
awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again. Thanks to our audience for watching another episode. Stay tuned. We've got more to come. And again, thanks for tuning in. Thank you.